Welcome, you watch but heard developer channel. My name is Dima. I am working on a big solution for musicians. This video will be a very short and maybe it will help someone, and you can call this video DevOps for the poor. The situation is as follows. I am now very actively developing a backend part of my solution, and finally GitLab told me you are spending too much of our resources, pay money. It looks like this: notifications that I spent 400 computer minutes in a month. Computer minutes is literally a minute of execution of your pipeline, deploy, test, etc. 1000 computer minutes cost $10. And as for me, it is expensive, because we are buying the weak power of GitLab, 1 processor core and up to 4 GB of RAM. This means that your test will run it in a single stream. And of course resources are limited and there may be queues. You can wait for a pipeline for other GitLab users. It's called shared servers. But GitLab is cool and allow us to run pipelines on our own resources. It's called private runners, and we can install our runners anywhere, in the cloud, on server, on local machine, and even on Raspberry Pi with Ubuntu. And as you understand, GitLab don't have limits for using private runners, so I can set up my own runners anywhere. And I will start with the right decision. You must deploy GitLab runners on a separated deploy server or cloud resources. Or you can use multiple servers. You can run separated tasks on a separated servers. For example, run tests in more powerful machine. I'm even come across a solution when a separated cloud virtual machine is turned on for heavy pipelines and after execution in turn off, saving the company a lot of money. One big rule: never install GitLab Runner on a production server. And of course, never run tests on production. Only build in which it's possible to run tests, runners, linters, and etc. must reach production. And deploy server should run Kubernetes or Docker Swarm. Even you can use SSH Connect to production server. If you are limited in resources, you can deploy the runners on the stage server. But remember, if everything okay on the stage server with the runner, this doesn't mean that there will not be fuck-ups on the production. And of course, spend production resources for users and not on deployment. And about my decision, I deploy the runner locally on my laptop. This is a bad and dangerous decision, but I can afford it for 2 reasons. First of all, I am working alone for now, so I don't need to think about access for deployment server for the other developers. And secondly, I still don't have deploy pipelines. I'm just running tests. Therefore, I can save some money on the server and run tests on powerful local machine. Always remember that there is a risk of joining Wi-Fi without VPN and attackers will gain access to your local deploy server. It is very bad case. But the deployment algorithm on the deployment server and locally is the same. First of all, we should go to GitLab, project groups or separated project. I recommend you use project group, as you know. Find on the left sidebar build and runners and click new runner group button. Here you should enter tags name or use run untagged job checkbox, but I strongly recommend you to use tags. Tags allow you to navigate between projects and tags allow you separate runners for the separate jobs. Believe me, in future it would be useful. And of course, we should add tag option to our CI/CD job script. Job with tag will run only on runners with this tag. And you should copy tag token. This token is private, so you cannot see it when you leave this page. Next, we have a multiple variants how to install GitLab Runner. I recommend you to use Docker because this is a simple one. And of course, you can install without Docker on the deployment server. It gives some little performance, but for local machine, Docker is very useful. And no matter of solution on the server, you should install Docker. It is GitLab Runner requirements. Docker should have 2 mandatory volumes, one for saving configuration and one give possibility to run Docker inside Docker and write restart always. Next, we should run command GitLab Runner register, and this command will ask us about GitLab domain. You should enter your own if you use self-hosted GitLab or enter gitlab.com. Next, we should enter token what we copy from GitLab. And very important, next question is executor. What GitLab Runner should use to run jobs? And this solution strongly depends on your project, but in most cases you will choose Docker or Kubernetes. My choice is Docker. And next question, what image we should use for run containers? And here important to select image that allow us to use Docker in Docker technology. Alpine has a problem with this, but Debian work perfect. And here you should know 2 approaches how to run Docker inside Docker. In fact, there are more approaches, but now I am interested in these 2. First one is default one. When you tried to run Docker container inside Docker, it was run on host. It is called Docker outside Docker, and it is very inconvenient. We have to think about how to transfer files from the container where run it the container to another container to host. We have to resolve conflicts that will arise when we run Docker as part of job, because we run containers with the same name. We can have conflicts if we use a deploy server with stage server, etc, etc. And yeah, we will have the same problems when we use Kubernetes. And the second approach, called Docker in Docker. In this case, a Docker run separate container for all job, and inside this isolated container deploy our jobs. A run job container if you need it, and this container does not nothing about host machine. Video about CI/CD scripts you can see that I write service Docker in Docker, and yes, this is required for this behavior. And to allow this, we should do two things. First of all, we should open config file. It will create it after our register command. First of all, we should allow to run container with privileged true. Yes, it is a bad practice, but we run this container inside another container, so it is okay for us. And add only one volume what need for our GitLab Runner works, set client. And here I recommend you to set up concurrence to some biggest number. It allows us to run jobs parallel. And it's all. We can restart GitLab Runner or container, and now GitLab use my local machine for running all script with tag local. And that's all. But you should understand that DevOps get money for a reason. There are a lot of knowledge here. For a large companies, it makes sense to configure optimal runners for various tasks, from running tests to building Docker containers or deploying a front end. But if you're a little startup team, it is okay to make deploy server from some laptop, and when you got a money, just spend 1 hour to make real deploy server, and this transition will not affect to the team at all, but you will have a real team with well-established processes. And the last what I have to say, why I add this video to frontend playlist. I have a completely subjective feelings that frontenders are not at all interested in deployment and DevOps practices. I even meet npm run dev command in production server. Immediately after the release, users began to complain that the website lives its own life, and I was connected to the project as troubleshooter. So I really want that front-end developers to understand that DevOps practices are important and not difficult at the basic level. So someone in front-end team can take over the role of DevOps and promote the whole team. That's all. The next video will be a big retrospective of backend approaches that I recommended, and I will start moving to the front end. Of course, there will be more video for backend, but I work in a format that is necessary for the project and not for lectures. And sorry, but I have to say, Russia is a terrorist state, is an aggressive country. Russians try to kill me and my family every day. Any kind of help is important. Believe me, your like under the Ukrainian tweet can save my life. So please support Ukraine, and thank you.